ago. That what the internet has done, the giant paradox here, it was supposed to homogenize everyone and make the world smaller. What it's done is made it so that Ukrainian folk dancers could find each other. Because you can't really Ukrainian folk dance by yourself. What it did was allow fundamentalists to be more extreme. Because they could isolate themselves when they chose and work with the real world when they chose. That what it did was it made it so that rodeo fans knew where the other rodeo fans were, and it made it easier to be loud about being a rodeo fan or a rodeo fan. You knew where to go and what to shop and what to buy because of these connections. Each group finding itself because it wants to. Now, a lot of this is based on ancient archetypes. You know, the warrior with his princess riding away on his steed. Updated by Harley Davidson. It's a natural inclination, and there are people who pay a $5,000 premium to drive that motorcycle because it's the symbol of their belonging to the tribe. And some of them are just plain ancient. That these tribes have been around for a really long time. It's possible to own the intellectual property that an entire tribe is based on. If you're MGM, this is a good thing that every year on Halloween, millions of people dress up like Dorothy. So let's do a little experiment here, if you would. Good. 4 seconds, 5 seconds. Every group I've ever tried that with over the years has been able to pull that off. And every group claps at a different rhythm. I did not show you which rhythm to clap, and yet you figured it out. How could that be? It turns out that human beings like doing what other human beings are doing. Not necessarily what all human beings are doing, but what other human beings in their tribe choose to do. It's important to us. And so we watch TV shows about fictional tribes, and amazingly, their habits and language and everything else leaks into the real world. And now those tribes show up in real life. That we don't have to wear a smock to trade stocks, even though sometimes it's pretty dirty. But the point is, these guys are wearing the red smock because it indicates to them that they're a member of a tribe. This is my favorite. They all share the same facial expressions when things aren't going well. Right? Why? Why? It's because culturally they like doing what other people are doing even when things aren't going well. Why do they wear white in the kitchen or white on a Navy ship? I don't know. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they're all in uniform for a reason. Because it connects them. Because it makes them members of a tribe. Silly hats work too. Hats all over the world. I have no idea what this girl's going to tell her family when she takes them home for dinner. But the point is that this was a choice by ordinary people who want to belong. These are members of an actual tribe, the Outdoor Competitive Ironing League. And they use battery-powered irons and go all over the world ironing. It seems silly unless you're in it. And when you're in it, it means you found some place where you belong. This, as you know, is one of my favorite pictures. It's a real photo. Apparently, volunteer firemen do this a lot. And then they train on a house that's going to be torn down anyway. And then they stop in the middle and take a picture of themselves. The picture is important. The uniforms are important. Volunteer firemen risking their lives for free. Because of the way it makes them feel, because of the way they connect them. Every night in America, women who work in an office, women with good jobs, instead of watching TV, go out and do roller derby and try to hurt themselves. For free. Because it matters. That the Shriners have raised hundreds of millions of dollars for their charities and ridden the silly bikes with the silly hats because it matters to be a Shriner. And it's happening online as well. That what we're seeing are geek tribes being built and being led. And an old kind of geek tribe. Sports is another example that I really like. Because when you're a sports fan, who exactly are you rooting for? The players are all different than they were last year. The coach is going to get fired. Are you rooting for the building? No. What you're doing is you're rooting for yourself. That when the team wins, you win because you're identifying with them. That the other people in the stands are you. That's how you labeled yourself. That's why sports teams are able to hold cities for ransom and build these really expensive stadiums that never, ever make a profit. Because what we're doing is we're building a monument to ourselves. That what we're doing is celebrating ourselves and the people we're connected with. And it happens at work. What happens at work is we also wear a uniform. We also have a lingo, and we stick with it probably longer than economically feasible because it's not just the job. Being part of that tribe defines, in large measure, who we are, and even if it changes, we're still going to do it because it's who we are. Now, some definitions here. It's really important to understand. There is a difference, between a crowd and a tribe. A crowd is a bunch of people. A tribe are people who have something in common, a movement, a message, a connection. Pirates are a great example. Pirates are clearly a tribe. They even have their own flag. But if you see somebody who's a pirate, you immediately know. Because they talk that funny way, and they got the peg leg and the parrot. There's all these things going on that make it clear that those people aren't just part of a crowd of criminals. They're actually part of a tribe. And Einstein was a member of this tribe of physicists. And if you were an insider, you had access to the best papers and the best teachers, and were more likely to succeed. In the same era, this group of people who went to see Harry Houdini do a death-defying trick were not part of a tribe. Right? They're still wearing all the same hats, but it doesn't matter. There are no outsiders here. Once there are no outsiders, there's no tribe. There's just a bunch of people coming to see a magic trick. Whereas at a country music concert, yeah, I would argue these people clearly are. They share a language. They share a connection. You can often tell by the costumes, by the hats, by the fact that people are going out of their way to self-identify. Now, the insider and outside thing becomes really important. If this guy were at home in Seattle, he'd be giving these guys the funny look, because he'd be in the majority. But right here, in this city, on this bench, he's an outsider. He's not part of the tribe, which brings these people closer together. Now, sometimes people view this as sort of a silly affectation. But the very same affectation can talk to bloodlines and generations through the years. People connecting to each other over history. But again, it's not about traffic jams. It's not about what you as a marketer are used to measuring. It's not about hits or page views or click-throughs. It's not about gross rating points. It's not about how many people you got to come to the grand opening of your supermarket. That is crowd generation. Give me money, I can buy you a crowd. Crowds are getting more expensive, but it can still be done. That's what marketers want to do because it feels like they're in control. It feels like they're in charge. But part of the message, and I'm working my way up to the real meat here, is that even though it's more difficult to earn a tribe, it's way more powerful. It matters. It's far bigger than word of mouth. It's way bigger than crowd generation. So here's an artificial Seth Godin chart with made-up data points in it that look really official. I was talking to Jim Collins. He and I don't know each other well. He taught me years ago at Stanford, but we haven't seen each other often. He gets up and he has real data. And I get up and I have make-believe data. And there's room for both of us in the world. So on the left, you see brand value increasing as the quality of tribal connection goes up. And just run any stock you want through this chart and you'll see that it works. That the Harley-Davidsons and the Apples of the world are over here because there's a high tribal connection. And then over here are people who might have the ability to generate a crowd, but it's not going to last. That what's really powerful, particularly for the people in this room, is the leverage that you get. Because it doesn't cost money to build a tribe. And once the tribe is in place, it grows organically and gets more powerful as it gets bigger. Here's a quick chart of Barack Obama's fundraising numbers. I've left out the last 2 months, which are way off the charts. And what you see is that someone with no real connections, with no real insider status, was able to generate millions and millions and millions of dollars from lots and lots of people doing it the new way, as opposed to doing it the old way. The Grateful Dead were doing this 40 years ago. We know that for at least 10 years, the Grateful Dead were the #1 grossing live act in the world. We're talking 40, 50, 60, $100 million in a year. Even though they only had one song hit the top 40 in their entire career. So how does that work? Because the Grateful Dead weren't in the business of selling records. The Grateful Dead led a tribe. They put on a rolling party. They went from city to city, and most of their fans went to every single one of the shows. Some came and some went, but that's what they were in the business of doing. That they gave people access